Welcome back to Cooking with Glenn and Katie.
Today, we'll be making some breadsticks.
They are absolutely delicious. Dad frequently makes them for our family, and from the texture to the flavor, the topping, and everything in between, they are absolutely perfect, and we can't wait to share the recipe with you today. So, ready to get started?
Yeah. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the yeast to proof, and to do that, I need some warm water. And so I've got 1 1/3 cups of warm water, and I did this in the microwave. I did it for 1 minute, which in my microwave, that's going to be 110 to 115 degrees. So I'm going to put this in here, put it in the bowl that it's going to be mixing in. And then I'm going to add 5 teaspoons of sugar. And I'm going to be putting the yeast in. You can use a package of yeast. It's less than a tablespoon, but I use a scant tablespoon, which is a little bit less than a tablespoon, but I use the tablespoon measure to do that. I'll sprinkle this in, and then I'm going to take a whisk and I'm going to mix it together. One reason I do this is to make sure the yeast is alive. There's nothing worse than making a whole bread recipe and it's flopping and you not know what happened. You can assure yourself it's not the yeast if you proof it first. So we're going to let it set for 10 minutes. While the yeast is proofing, go ahead and get 2 baking sheets. The baking sheets will need to be lined with a silicone mat, parchment paper, or a light coating of oil. And then also slightly dampen 2 towels. Look at this yeast. It has proofed, and look at all those bubbles. So very active yeast, so we're ready to go. And I will add to this 1 tablespoon of oil. You can use any kind of oil. This is canola oil. Next, I'm going to add the bread flour. This is 3 1/2 cups of bread flour. And finally, I'm going to add salt. This is 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, and I'm sprinkling this in. This is going to kind of inhibit the growth of the yeast so it doesn't go crazy. Kind of slows it down just a little bit. So it's for taste, but also inhibits the growth of the yeast. And now I'm going to put the hook on, put it in here, and I'm going to let it go very slow for the first 30 seconds to a minute so everything's mixed in together. Then I'm going to speed it up. I'll let it knead for 8 minutes. Okay, let's look at the dough. The dough is perfect this time. It's not sticky. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. If it sticks on the side of the bowl or the bottom of the bowl, then you just add 1 teaspoon of flour and let it knead it a little bit more, and then you may need to add a little bit more until it's like this. Okay, I'm going to shape this dough. I'm going to make it into looking kind of like a loaf. Spread it out. Work it with my hands. You can see it's not sticking, so it's perfect. So I'm going to stretch it out about 12 inches. And then I'm going to push it out to be about 6 inches wide. 12 inches long, 6 inches wide. So I'll work with this, and I can feel how thick the bread is since I've done this so often. So I can make it uniform throughout this whole piece of dough. I'm finished shaping the dough. It should be about 5 to 6 inches. This is right at 6 inches in width and 12 inches long. And so I'll place this here, and then I'm going to cut it right in half. So I see the 6-inch mark here, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to cut it. And now I'm going to cut this in half and this in half. So I'm going to come over here and I'll just eye it from this point on. You can measure it to about 3 inches there. And then I'm going to cut the strips. So I'm going to cut this in thirds. So that's the first piece. And then I'll cut this in half. So I got 3 pieces. I'll go ahead and put this on the tray here, and I'm going to pull them out about halfway across the tray. So I do this for all 12 pieces. These are the 12 pieces of dough. I noticed I went right about halfway across the pan to stretch them out. And I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the oven to rise. So I'll make the best use of my time. I let the dough rise in the oven. You don't have to do that, but then you've got variables, the temperature, the humidity. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the oven. I'm gonna set the oven right now at 350 degrees while I'm getting ready to put them in, and then right before I put them in, I'm gonna turn the oven off and turn the oven light on. I'm gonna put a dampened towel in my microwave, and I'm gonna let it sit in here for 30 seconds. And then when it comes out, it's gonna be warm and moist, and I'm gonna put that on top of the dough before I put it into the oven. Put it in the oven on the top rack. I'm going to let the dough rise for 20 minutes in the oven. I'm going to make the garlic butter sauce. And to do that, I've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil that I'm going to put in a small pan. I'm going to add the garlic. This is 1 heaping tablespoon of fresh garlic, minced. And when this starts sizzling, you know it's starting to sizzle now, I'm gonna let it cook for a minute or 2, but I definitely do not want it to be brown. And once it starts turning colors, then I will put a stick of butter in here and bring that to a boil, and then I'll turn it off and set it to the side. I just want to make sure that the butter and the oil is infused by the garlic. So I think about right now it's been less than a minute, just a few more seconds. So I'm gonna put the butter in. I've got it cut in chunks. And I'll heat this until it melts. And then when it's all melted and boiling, I'm gonna turn it off. This just finished boiling. I turned the stove top off, and now I'm gonna let it sit until I'm ready to put this on the breadstick dough. I keep the breadsticks covered with the cloth so they don't dry out while I'm making the breadsticks. So I'm gonna take each piece and I'm gonna spread it out like this. And it's gonna be about 12 inches, but I'll use my ruler so I can cut it in half. So I've got my ruler here, and it's a little bit over 12 inches, which is good. Now I'm gonna cut it at the 6-inch mark right here because I'm making 6-inch breadsticks. Then I'm gonna move the breadsticks over here where I've got a ruler. I found these at Walmart on clearance for 25 cents and didn't know what I was gonna do with Post-it notes that were rulers, but it's turned out perfect. I'll just take one of these and I put it down here so I can see the 6 inches here. Now I'll take the bread dough here. I see it's right at 6 inches. I'm gonna kind of, where I cut it, I'm gonna kind of press a little bit. And this is the breadstick. Now they're all gonna be 6 inches, but they're gonna look different when they come out of the oven. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna make sure it's 6 inches. I'm gonna make sure that's even across here. There's not a skinny place and a fat place. And I'll just kind of manipulate the end so it's gonna look like a breadstick, and I'll put them right here. I'm going to repeat the same process I did on the first rise, but this time I've got 2 trays. I will let them rise 15 minutes. Then I'll take them out of the oven and let them sit until I preheat the oven to 500 degrees. Now I'm going to make the Parmesan cheese topping that will go on top of the breadsticks. To begin, I'll add Parmesan cheese. I grated this and it's very, very fine. And to this, I'm going to add a teaspoon of parsley flakes, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Both of these are dried. A teaspoon of garlic powder. This is not garlic salt, it's garlic powder. A teaspoon of coarse ground pepper. And since I'm using salted butter, I'm only going to put in a half a teaspoon of coarse ground salt. And I'll mix this together, and it will go on top of the breadsticks at the very end of the process. I removed the breadstick dough from the oven and turned the oven on 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and now I'm going to put a light coat of garlic butter on each one and let them sit until the oven preheats. I go down the center like that with some butter on it, then I just kind of even it out. That's all I do. So I go down the center like this, and then I brush it lightly. Go down the center. The oven has preheated to 500 degrees. I'm putting both pans in. Put this one on the top. I put this one on the bottom. And halfway through, or after 6 minutes, I'm going to take them out. I'll put this pan on the bottom, and I'll turn them both around and put this pan on the top for another 6 minutes. The breadsticks are out of the oven, so let's look at them. Even though I spent time making them all 6 inches and about the same size, like I said, look at this. They look all different, but they're all going to taste the same. They're going to be delicious. And now I'm going to paint them with the garlic butter. And this time I'll try to get some garlic to go on them when I do it. And I like to double butter these. So I'll go back and put butter on each one of these. And then I will take the mixture I have here and I will sprinkle it on here like this. There's plenty of mixture, so you can do it heavy. Once I do that, I kind of pat it down a little bit, just like this. And now it's done.
I'm gonna be the taste tester today. I've got my breadstick here, which looks absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try. That is amazing. Those seasonings, the flavoring, everything's perfect. The texture. That could go with any meal you would make, whether it be a delicious spaghetti, a homemade soup, or just as a snack. This is excellent. Definitely give this a shot. Thank you so much for joining us today. As with all of our recipe videos, the recipe is actually linked in the description box below. So if you're interested in trying this recipe out, be sure to look there to get all the details. And if you haven't subscribed, please be sure to do so. And don't forget to click the notification bell so that you're notified whenever we put out a new video. And just a couple more things. If you enjoyed this video or if you have any feedback, please be sure to comment below. We love to hear from you guys. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give us a thumbs up. And we will see you guys with our next video. See ya.